The late afternoon sun filtered through the sheer curtains of the small two-bedroom apartment on Woodland Street in East Nashville, casting soft golden patterns across the worn hardwood floors. Lily Ann Crawford sat cross-legged on her bed, her fingers tracing the raised dots of her Braille music book with practiced precision. At 12 years old, she had been blind for 7 years, but the world of sound had become more vivid to her than sight had ever been. From the living room, she could hear the familiar sounds of her mother moving about, the clinking of dishes, the heavy footsteps that always seemed weighted with worry, the occasional sigh that punctuated Rebecca Crawford's evenings like a sad refrain. Lily tilted her head slightly, listening to the rhythm of her mother's movements, cataloging them the way other children might memorize their times tables. "Lily, dinner in 10 minutes, Rebecca called out, her voice carrying that particular tone Lily had come to recognize, not harsh, but firm, leaving no room for negotiation. "Yes, ma'am," Lily responded, carefully closing her book and setting it aside. She stood up slowly, her hand finding the wall that she knew led to her bedroom door. 7 years of blindness had taught her to navigate this apartment with precision, but her mother still insisted on keeping everything exactly where it had always been. Change, Rebecca often said, was dangerous for someone like Lily. Lily made her way to the small desk by her window. A window she couldn't see through but loved nonetheless, because she could feel the warmth of sunlight and hear the sounds of the neighborhood beyond. Her fingers found the old CD player that sat there, a gift from her late father. She pressed play, and the familiar opening notes of George Strait's "I Cross My Heart" filled her room. The music wrapped around her like a warm embrace. George Strait's voice had been her companion through countless lonely afternoons, his songs painting pictures in her mind more vivid than any photograph. Her father had loved country music, and in the years since his death, Lily had clung to those melodies like lifelines to a past she could barely remember visually, but felt deeply in her bones. "Lily, turn that down, please." Her mother's voice cut through the music. Lily reached for the volume knob, lowering it until the music became a whisper. She stood there for a moment, swaying slightly to the rhythm only she could hear at that volume, her lips moving silently to words she knew by heart. The apartment felt smaller every day, like it was slowly closing in on her. It wasn't the physical space, though at barely 900 square feet. It was indeed small, but rather the invisible walls her mother had constructed around her life. No sleepovers, no school field trips, no music classes at the community center, no friends visiting the apartment. The list of no's had grown so long that Lily had stopped asking for permission for anything beyond the basics. "Dinner's ready," Rebecca called out. Lily navigated the short hallway to the kitchen, her hand trailing along the wall. She counted her steps, 12 from her bedroom door to the kitchen entrance, then 4 more to her usual seat at the small round table. Her mother had already set out her plate, and Lily could smell meatloaf and green beans. "How was your day at school?" Rebecca asked, her voice softening slightly as she sat down across from her daughter. Lily picked up her fork, using her fingers to locate the food on her plate before answering. "It was fine. Mrs. Patterson read us a chapter from Where the Red Fern Grows." "That's nice," Rebecca said, though her tone suggested she was only half listening. "Did anything else happen? Anyone bother you?" "No, Mama. Nobody bothered me." "You stayed in Ms. Bennett's classroom during recess like I told you?" Lily hesitated. This was a daily question, and she hated lying, but she also hated the alternative, telling her mother that she'd actually gone outside to the playground, where she'd sat on a bench and listened to the other kids playing, their laughter and shouts painting a picture of a world she was allowed to hear but never truly join. "Yes, ma'am," she said quietly. Rebecca seemed satisfied with this answer. "Good. It's safer that way." Those kids running around like wild animals. Someone could knock you down, hurt you. Lily ate her meatloaf in silence, each bite tasting like resignation. Her mother meant well. She knew that. After Daddy died in that car accident 5 years ago, something had broken inside Rebecca Crawford. The woman who had once taken Lily to parks and children's museums had transformed into someone who saw danger in every corner, threat in every possibility. "I saw Mrs. Henderson from the 3rd floor today," Rebecca continued. "She told me about some charity event happening next month at the Ryman auditorium. Something about country music and special needs children." She paused. I told her we wouldn't be interested. Lily's fork stopped midway to her mouth. "What kind of event?" "It doesn't matter, Lily. Those places are too crowded, too chaotic. You'd be overwhelmed." "But Mama..." "The answer is no." Rebecca's voice hardened. "I work for Child Protective Services, Lily. I see every single day what happens when parents aren't careful, when they let their children go to places they can't control. I will not let anything happen to you. Do you understand me?" "Yes, ma'am," Lily whispered, setting down her fork. Her appetite had vanished. The rest of the dinner passed in heavy silence. Afterward, Lily helped clear the table. A carefully choreographed routine they'd performed countless times, and then retreated to her bedroom. She closed the door softly and made her way back to her bed, where she sat in the darkness that was no different to her than daylight. Her fingers found the CD player again, but this time she didn't press play. Instead, she reached under her pillow and pulled out a small handheld radio that her teacher, Ms. Claire Bennett, had given her months ago. It was a secret, one of the few Lily kept from her mother. She plugged in the single earbud, just one, so she could hear if her mother approached, and turned it on, keeping the volume low. She navigated through the static until she found WSIX, Nashville's classic country station. The DJ's voice came through, warm and familiar. And that was Amarillo by Morning, folks. The one and only George Strait. Speaking of the king of country, we've got some exciting news to share. Next month, George Strait himself will be making a special appearance right here in Nashville at the Ryman Auditorium for the Children's Music Hope Foundation charity event. This incredible organization supports music education for children with disabilities, and George has donated his time to make some dreams come true. If you know a child who might benefit from this event, applications are being accepted through next Friday at the Foundation's website. Lily's heart began to pound so hard she could hear it over the radio. George Strait, here in Nashville, at an event for children like her, the same event her mother had dismissed without a second thought. She turned off the radio and sat very still, her mind racing. For years, she'd been obedient, accepting every limitation her mother placed on her life. She understood that Rebecca was afraid of losing her the way she'd lost Daddy. But sitting there in her bedroom, listening to the muffled sounds of her mother watching television in the living room, Lily realized something that both terrified and exhilarated her. She was disappearing. Not physically, but in every way that mattered. She was becoming a ghost in her own life, a collection of careful movements and quiet compliance. The music that filled her heart had nowhere to go. The songs that wanted to pour out of her stayed locked inside, unheard. Lily had never considered defying her mother. Rebecca Crawford was not a cruel woman, not abusive or intentionally harmful. She was simply scared, and that fear had metastasized into control. But fear, Lily was beginning to understand, could be its own kind of prison. She thought about George Strait, about his music that had carried her through her darkest days after losing her sight. She thought about the possibility of meeting him, maybe even hearing him sing in person. And somewhere in the deepest part of her heart, a small flame of rebellion began to flicker. The next morning at school, Lily waited until after the morning announcements before approaching Ms. Bennett's desk. Claire Bennett was in her mid-30s, with a gentle voice and patient hands that had taught Lily more about music in 1 year than most people learned in a lifetime. She taught special education, but had a background in music therapy, and she'd recognized Lily's gift almost immediately. "Ms. Bennett?" Lily stood by the desk, her white cane held loosely in her right hand. "Good morning, Lily. What can I do for you?" Lily lowered her voice, even though the other students were busy with their morning work. "I heard about the event at the Ryman, the one with George Strait." There was a pause, and Lily heard Ms. Bennett's chair creak as she shifted. "I was hoping you might. Have you talked to your mother about it?" She said no. She didn't even want to hear about it. Another pause, longer this time. Then Ms. Bennett spoke carefully. "Your mother loves you very much, Lily. She's trying to protect you." "I know," Lily said quietly. "But Ms. Bennett, I'm not made of glass. I won't break if I go outside. If I do things, I'm already broken in a different way. Broken from never getting to be a real person." Claire Bennett stood up, and Lily heard her walk around the desk. She felt her teacher's hand on her shoulder, warm and reassuring. "You are a real person, Lily. A remarkable one. And you have a gift for music that I've rarely seen in all my years of teaching." "Then help me," Lily said, surprised by the firmness in her own voice. "Please, I need to go to that event. I need to do something that's mine. Just once." Ms. Bennett was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was measured, cautious. "What you're asking me to do could get me in serious trouble. Your mother would have every right to be furious with me." "I'm not asking you to go behind her back," Lily said quickly. "I'm asking you to help me find a way to convince her. Or to at least apply for the event. Maybe if I got accepted, maybe that would mean something to her." "The application requires a parent's signature, Lily." Lily's shoulders slumped. Of course it did. Every door in her life required her mother's permission to open, and Rebecca kept all those doors firmly locked. "However," Ms. Bennett continued, "the foundation also accepts applications from educators on behalf of their students. I could submit an application for you, explaining your situation and your musical abilities. But Lily, you need to understand something. Even if you were accepted, you couldn't attend without your mother's permission. I won't lie to her or help you sneak out. That's not the answer. But it's a start," Lily said. "If I got accepted, then at least I'd have proof that someone besides me thinks I can do this. That I should do this." Ms. Bennett sighed. "Let me think about it. I need to consider the ethical implications here. Your mother is your guardian, and her wishes matter. But so do you, Lily. So do your needs and your potential." She paused. "Can you give me a day to think about this?" "Yes, ma'am," Lily said. "Thank you for even considering it." As Lily made her way back to her desk, she felt something unfamiliar stirring inside her. Hope, fragile and tentative, but undeniably there. That evening, Lily sat at the dinner table with her mother, picking at her chicken and rice. The television in the living room was on, tuned to the local news as it always was during dinner. Rebecca insisted on knowing what was happening in Nashville. Part of her constant vigilance against all the dangers she was convinced lurked around every corner. In local news, the anchor's voice drifted in from the other room. "Preparations are underway for next month's Children's Music Hope Foundation event at the historic Ryman Auditorium. Country music legend George Strait will headline the event, which aims to bring music education opportunities to children with disabilities across Tennessee." Foundation Director Patricia Holbrook says they've already received over 200 applications from families hoping their children can participate. Lily felt her mother's eyes on her, but kept her own face carefully neutral, continuing to eat as if she hadn't heard. 200 families, Rebecca said quietly. 200 parents willing to put their vulnerable children in a chaotic environment with crowds and noise and strangers. Maybe they think it's worth it, Lily said softly, immediately regretting the words. Worth what? Worth the risk? Worth their child getting hurt or lost or overwhelmed? Rebecca's voice rose slightly. I see the aftermath of parents' poor decisions every day at work, Lily. I will not be one of those parents. Lily set down her fork. Mama, do you remember when Daddy used to take us to see the symphony at Schermerhorn Center? I was only 5 before I lost my sight. But I remember. There were lots of people there. Lots of noise. But Daddy said experiencing live music was important, that it fed the soul. Rebecca's silence was heavy, painful. When she finally spoke, her voice was thick with emotion. Your father's decisions led to his death, Lily. He insisted on driving in that storm, insisted he could handle it. He was wrong. The words hung in the air like smoke after a gunshot. Lily felt tears burning behind her useless eyes, but refused to let them fall. This was the wound that never healed, the grief that had twisted into something darker in her mother's heart. I'm sorry, Lily whispered. I didn't mean to upset you. Rebecca stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. Finish your dinner. I need to prepare some case files for tomorrow. Lily sat alone at the table, listening to her mother's footsteps retreat to her bedroom. The television continued its cheerful chatter about community events and weather forecasts, oblivious to the sadness that permeated the small apartment. That night, lying in her bed, Lily made a decision. She would ask Ms. Bennett to submit the application. Even if her mother never allowed her to attend, even if this small act of defiance led nowhere, she needed to try. She needed to prove to herself that she had agency, that her voice mattered, that she was more than just a problem to be kept safe. She reached for her CD player and put on Carrying Your Love With Me, letting George Strait's voice fill the darkness around her. As she listened, she tried to imagine what it would be like to hear that voice in person, to be in the same room where legends had performed for over a century. The possibility seemed as distant as the stars she could no longer see. But for the first time in years, Lily allowed herself to dream of something beyond the walls of her mother's fear. 3 days later, Claire Bennett sat in her classroom after school, staring at her computer screen. The application for the Children's Music Hope Foundation was open in front of her, cursor blinking in the empty fields. In her 15 years of teaching, she'd never done anything quite like this, submitting an application for a student without explicit parental consent. But she also knew that in 15 years of teaching, she'd never encountered a student quite like Lily Ann Crawford. Claire had seen dozens of children with disabilities pass through her classroom. Some thrived despite their challenges, while others struggled to find their place in a world that wasn't designed for them. Lily belonged firmly in the first category, except for one crucial problem. Her mother wouldn't let her thrive. Rebecca Crawford's file was thick with notes from school administrators, counselors, and teachers who'd tried to encourage her to allow Lily more independence. There had been recommendations for orientation and mobility training that Rebecca had refused. Suggestions for after-school programs that had been shot down. Even basic social opportunities with other students had been blocked. Claire understood trauma. She'd taken enough psychology courses to recognize that Rebecca's behavior stemmed from profound loss and fear. But understanding didn't change the fact that Lily was withering in the shadow of her mother's anxiety. The classroom door opened, and Claire looked up to see Henry Foster leaning against the doorframe. At 72, Henry was supposed to be retired, but he volunteered at the school 3 days a week, helping in the music room and tutoring students in math. He'd been a session musician in Nashville's golden era, playing guitar on records that had topped charts and filled radio waves. "Still here, Claire?" he asked, his voice carrying the warm rasp of someone who'd spent decades in smoky studios and honky-tonk bars. "Trying to make a decision," Claire admitted. "Come in. I could use some perspective." Henry settled into one of the student chairs, his weathered hands resting on his knees. Claire explained the situation, Lily's talent, her mother's restrictions, the opportunity with George Strait, and the ethical dilemma she now faced. "That Crawford girl," Henry said thoughtfully when Claire finished. "Skinny kid. Always has her fingers tapping out rhythms on her desk? That's her. I've heard her sing," Henry said. "Tuesday afternoons when I'm setting up the music room. She doesn't know I'm there, just sings to herself while she waits for the school bus. Kid's got perfect pitch, Claire. Natural phrasing. The kind of instinct you can't teach." He paused. "That's a gift from God, and it's a sin to keep it locked up. But I'm not her parent. I don't have the right to override Rebecca's decisions." "Don't you, though?" Henry leaned forward. "When a parent's fear is actively harming a child, don't we have an obligation to intervene? That woman works for Child Protective Services, for God's sake. She should understand that protection and imprisonment aren't the same thing." Claire turned back to her computer. "If I submit this application and Lily gets accepted, it could make everything worse. Rebecca might pull her out of school, homeschool her. Then Lily would have nothing. Or," Henry countered, "it could be the wake-up call that woman needs. Sometimes people don't see how far they've gone until someone holds up a mirror. And if it backfires, then at least you tried. At least that little girl will know that someone believed in her enough to fight for her." Henry stood up, his knees creaking slightly. "I've lived a long time, Claire. Recorded with legends, played stages from here to Austin. You know what I regret? Not the chances I took, the chances I didn't take, the times I played it safe." After Henry left, Claire sat in the quiet classroom for another 20 minutes. Finally, she began typing. Student name: Lily Ann Crawford. Age 12. Disability: blind. Complete vision loss due to Leber's congenital amaurosis. Musical background and abilities. Claire's fingers flew across the keyboard, describing Lily's perfect pitch, her ability to learn complex melodies after hearing them just once, her emotional interpretation of songs that went far beyond her years. She wrote about the way Lily's face transformed when she sang, how music seemed to be the only thing that allowed her to truly express herself. In the section requesting the student's personal statement, Claire paused. The application asked what meeting George Strait would mean to the child. She couldn't write this part for Lily. It would be fraudulent and wrong. But she also knew that if she sent the application to Lily to complete, the girl would have no way to submit it without her mother finding out. Claire made a decision. She would fill out everything except the personal statement, then bring Lily to her classroom tomorrow after school. She'd set up her computer with voice-to-text software and let Lily dictate her own words. That way, at least the heart of the application, Lily's voice, Lily's dreams, would be authentic. The next afternoon, Claire waited until the other students had left before approaching Lily. "Can you stay for a few minutes? I want to show you something." Lily's expression was cautious. "I need to catch the bus. My mother expects me home by 3:45. I'll drive you home myself," Claire promised. "I just need 20 minutes." In the quiet classroom, Claire explained what she'd done. She'd filled out the application but left the most important part blank, the part where Lily could explain, in her own words, what this opportunity meant to her. "The software is set up," Claire said, guiding Lily's hand to the keyboard. "When you're ready to speak, just press the spacebar. It will transcribe everything you say. Take your time. Be honest." Tell them why this matters." Claire stepped back, giving Lily privacy in the only way that mattered, by staying silent and still, making her presence as unobtrusive as possible. Lily sat very straight in the chair, her hands resting on the desk. She was quiet for so long that Claire began to worry she'd changed her mind. Then, slowly, Lily pressed the spacebar and began to speak. "My name is Lily Ann Crawford, and I've been blind since I was 5 years old. Before I lost my sight, I remember colors and faces and sunlight. But I also remember music. My daddy playing George Strait records on Sunday mornings while making pancakes. After he died when I was 7, those songs were the only way I could still feel close to him. Music is how I see the world now. When George Strait sings 'I Cross My Heart,' I can see a man standing under stars, promising forever to someone he loves. When he sings 'The Chair,' I can see a bar where two people meet and change each other's lives. His music paints pictures that my eyes can't see anymore. Meeting George Strait would mean everything to me because his voice has been my companion through the hardest parts of my life. But more than that, this event represents something I've never had. The chance to do something brave, to step outside the small world I've been living in, to prove that being blind doesn't mean I can't experience beautiful things. My mother keeps me safe, but I'm starting to understand that safety without life isn't really safety at all. It's just existing. I don't want to just exist anymore. I want to live. I want to sing. And I want to thank the man whose music helped me survive by showing him that his songs didn't just entertain me, they saved me." When Lily finished, there were tears running down her cheeks. Claire's own eyes were wet as she saved the document and completed the application. "It's submitted," Claire said softly. "Whatever happens now, Lily, you spoke your truth. That takes courage. Will you tell my mother what we did?" Claire considered this carefully. "If you're accepted, yes, I'll tell her, and I'll advocate for you to attend. But I won't go behind her back. That's not right, and it won't help in the long run." "Thank you," Lily whispered. "Even if nothing comes of this, thank you for believing I could do it." Claire drove Lily home, watching as the girl navigated the sidewalk to her apartment building with practiced confidence. As Lily disappeared inside, Claire sent up a silent prayer that she'd done the right thing. 2 weeks passed with agonizing slowness. Lily went to school, came home, did her homework, ate dinner with her mother, and retreated to her room. The routine was unchanged, but something inside Lily had shifted. She moved through her days with a new awareness, noticing all the small ways her mother's fear shaped their lives. The apartment temperature was always set to 72 degrees, never warmer, never cooler, because Rebecca had read that consistent temperature reduced the risk of illness. Their meals followed a strict rotation, the same 7 dinners every week, because familiar foods meant Lily could navigate her plate without surprises. The furniture hadn't been rearranged in 7 years. Even Lily's clothes were organized in a specific order that never varied. Everything was designed to create a predictable, controllable world. And Lily was suffocating in it. She began counting things to pass the time, steps from room to room, seconds between her mother's sighs, the number of times Rebecca said, "Be careful," in a single day. The record was 37. At school, Ms. Bennett treated her normally, giving no indication that anything had changed between them. But Henry Foster started joining Lily during lunch period, sitting with her in the cafeteria and telling stories about old Nashville, the musicians he'd known, the songs he'd played on, the magic of those glory days. "You know, George Strait came up in Texas," Henry told her one Thursday. "Started playing in honky-tonks while he was in the Army. Nobody handed him anything. He worked for every bit of success he got. Ms. Bennett says he's one of the kindest people in country music, Lily said. That he remembers where he came from. That's the truth. I recorded on one of his early albums way back in the 80s. Man took time to learn everyone's name, from the studio owner to the kid who brought coffee. That's class, Lily. That's character. These conversations were the highlight of Lily's days. Henry didn't treat her like she was fragile or broken. He talked to her like she was simply a person who happened to be blind, the same way someone might happen to be tall or left-handed. On the 17th day after the application was submitted, Claire Bennett received an email. She read it 3 times, her heart pounding harder with each reading. Then she picked up her phone and called the number at the bottom of the message. Children's Music Hope Foundation. This is Patricia Holbrook. Ms. Holbrook, this is Claire Bennett. I submitted an application for one of my students, Lily Ann Crawford. I just received your email, and I need to make sure I'm understanding correctly. Yes, Ms. Bennett. Lily has been accepted as one of 20 children who will participate in our event with George Strait. Her personal statement was extraordinarily moving. Several of our board members were in tears. Claire closed her eyes, feeling relief and anxiety in equal measure. That's wonderful. There's just one complication. She explained Rebecca's restrictions and fears, her own concerns about how the mother might react. Patricia Holbrook listened carefully. I see. That is complicated. However, Ms. Bennett, I should tell you that part of our program includes family counseling services. We work with parents who struggle to balance protection with allowing their children to develop independence. If Mrs. Crawford would be willing to meet with our family coordinator, we might be able to address her concerns. I don't know if she'll be willing, Claire said honestly, but I'll try. Lily deserves this chance. That afternoon, Claire asked Rebecca Crawford to come to the school for a meeting. Rebecca arrived 15 minutes early, her expression already defensive. Is Lily in trouble? She asked before even sitting down. No, nothing like that. Please, sit. Rebecca perched on the edge of the chair, her purse clutched in her lap like a shield. Claire took a deep breath and began explaining what she'd done. Rebecca's face went through a range of expressions: surprise, anger, betrayal, and finally, a kind of weary resignation that was somehow worse than the anger. You went behind my back, Rebecca said flatly. You submitted an application for my daughter, without my permission. I did, Claire admitted, and I understand why you're angry. But Rebecca, I need you to hear me. Lily is an exceptionally talented child. Her musical abilities are remarkable, and she's withering in isolation. I'm not saying you don't love her, I know you do. But love alone isn't enough. She needs opportunities to grow, to challenge herself, to become who she's meant to be. What she needs is to be safe, Rebecca shot back. Do you have any idea how many cases I see every week? Children who've been hurt because their parents weren't paying attention, weren't careful enough, weren't paralyzed by fear? Claire interrupted gently. Rebecca, I've read Lily's file. I know about your husband's accident. I know that loss shaped everything that came after. But you're so focused on preventing Lily from being hurt that you're not seeing how she's already hurting. Rebecca's hands tightened on her purse. You don't understand. Then help me understand. Explain to me how keeping a 12-year-old girl locked away from every experience, every opportunity, every chance at friendship and growth, how is that protecting her? What kind of life is she going to have if she never learns to navigate the world? She's blind. Rebecca's voice cracked. She can't see danger coming. She can't protect herself. She could learn. There are programs, training, resources, but you've refused all of them because they want to teach her to use a cane, to ride buses, to go places alone. She could get lost. Someone could take advantage of her. Something could happen. Something could always happen, Claire said softly. To any of us, at any time. But we can't stop living because we're afraid of dying. Rebecca stood up abruptly. This conversation is over. Lily will not be attending that event, and I'll be speaking to the principal about your overreach. The foundation offers family counseling, Claire said quickly. Parents who struggle with the same fears you have. Would you at least consider speaking with their coordinator? No, we're done here. Rebecca left the classroom, her footsteps echoing down the empty hallway. Claire sat at her desk, feeling like she'd just made everything worse. But that evening, something unexpected happened. Rebecca Crawford sat in her car in the school parking lot for 20 minutes after leaving the building, Claire's words echoing in her mind. You're so focused on preventing Lily from being hurt that you're not seeing how she's already hurting. She thought about the daughter she'd raised for the past 7 years. Quiet, obedient, increasingly withdrawn. When was the last time she'd heard Lily laugh? Really laugh. Not just the polite chuckle she offered when Rebecca made a joke at dinner. Rebecca pulled out her phone and, before she could change her mind, typed Children's Music Hope Foundation into the search bar. The website loaded, showing photos of smiling children at previous events, all of them with various disabilities, all of them looking genuinely happy. She found the Family Resources section and clicked through to an article titled, When Protection Becomes Prison, Finding Balance After Loss. Rebecca read the entire article sitting in her car as the sun set over Nashville. When she finished, she sat very still, tears streaming down her face, finally allowing herself to acknowledge what she'd known deep down, but couldn't admit. She was failing her daughter by loving her too much, in all the wrong ways. The next morning, Rebecca Crawford did something she hadn't done in 5 years. She called in sick to work. She didn't feel ill, but she couldn't face the office, couldn't sit through case reviews and home visits, while her own home was so broken. After Lily left for school, Rebecca sat at the kitchen table with her laptop, coffee growing cold beside her. She'd spent half the night reading articles on the Children's Music Hope Foundation website, watching videos of past events, reading testimonials from parents who'd struggled with the same fears she faced daily. One video in particular had struck her, a father talking about his son who had cerebral palsy. I thought keeping him close meant keeping him safe, the man said, his voice thick with emotion. But I was really just keeping him small. When I finally let him attend the music camp, when I watched him perform on stage even though his hands shook and his words slurred, that's when I realized I'd been protecting him from the very experiences that would make his life worth living. Rebecca had watched that video 3 times, seeing herself reflected in the father's anguish and eventual understanding. Now, in the harsh light of morning, she pulled up the foundation's contact information and stared at the phone number for the family coordinator. Her finger hovered over her phone screen for several minutes before she finally dialed. Children's Music Hope Foundation. This is Janet Morrison speaking. Hi, my name is Rebecca Crawford. My daughter was accepted into your program with George Strait. Her teacher submitted the application. Rebecca's voice was shaky. I was told there are counseling services for parents? Janet Morrison's voice was warm but professional. Yes, Mrs. Crawford. We offer individual and group counseling for parents navigating the challenges of raising children with disabilities. Would you like to schedule an appointment? I don't know if it will help, Rebecca admitted. I have been this way for a long time. Since my husband died, I understand. Grief and fear often become intertwined, especially when we've experienced traumatic loss. But Mrs. Crawford, the fact that you're calling tells me you're ready to examine those patterns. That's the hardest step. Rebecca scheduled an appointment for the following afternoon. After hanging up, she sat very still, wondering if she'd just made a terrible mistake or taken the first step toward healing. At school, Lily was having a difficult day. Word had somehow spread that she'd been accepted to the George Strait event, and several students had approached her between classes to offer congratulations she couldn't accept. "Your mom's letting you go, right?" asked Bethany Williams, a classmate who'd always been friendly but distant, close enough for polite conversation, far enough to respect the invisible walls around Lily's life. "I don't know," Lily said quietly. She hasn't decided yet. But Lily knew better. Her mother's silence over the past 2 days had been deafening. Rebecca hadn't yelled or punished her for the application. She'd simply said nothing about it at all, which was somehow worse. During lunch, Henry Foster found Lily sitting alone at her usual table in the corner of the cafeteria. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, his voice gentle. "Sure." Henry settled into the chair across from her with a soft grunt. "Heard you got accepted to the event." "That's wonderful news, Lily." "My mom won't let me go." "You don't know that for certain." "I know my mother." Lily picked at her sandwich without eating. "She's probably looking for a way to get me pulled from the school. Maybe homeschool me so teachers can't go behind her back anymore." Henry was quiet for a moment. "Can I tell you a story?" "Okay." "Back in 1985, I got offered a spot as lead guitarist for a tour with Willie Nelson. Dream gig, the kind of opportunity most musicians would kill for. But my wife had just been diagnosed with cancer, and I was terrified. Terrified to leave her. Terrified something would happen while I was on the road. Terrified that if I chose music over staying by her side, I'd regret it forever." "What did you do?" Lily asked. "I told Willie I couldn't go. Turned down the opportunity. And you know what my wife said when I told her? She was furious with me. Not because she wanted me gone, but because she didn't want to be the reason I gave up my dreams. She said, 'Henry Foster, I married a musician, not a nurse. I have doctors for the medical stuff. What I need from you is to keep being the man I fell in love with. The man who plays guitar like his soul depends on it.' Did you end up going?" "I did, and it was the best decision I ever made. Because when I came back from that tour, I wasn't a resentful man sitting at a bedside wondering what might have been. I was a grateful husband who'd lived fully and could now support his wife through her treatment without regrets clouding everything." Henry paused. "She beat the cancer, by the way. Lived another 20 years before her heart gave out." "What's the point of the story?" Lily asked softly. "The point is that sometimes the people who love us most are the ones who need help seeing that their protection is actually harm. Your mother loves you fiercely, Lily, but she's lost sight of what you need because she's so focused on what she's afraid of. Maybe this situation, as hard as it is exactly what she needs to wake up. Or maybe it'll just make her hold on tighter." "Maybe," Henry acknowledged. "But you can't live your life based on your mother's fears. At some point, you have to make choices for yourself." That afternoon, Rebecca Crawford sat in a small, comfortable office at the Children's Music Hope Foundation, facing Janet Morrison across a coffee table scattered with tissues and magazines. "Tell me about your daughter," Janet began. Rebecca talked for 45 minutes straight about Lily's diagnosis with Leber's congenital amaurosis at age 5, about the progressive loss of vision, about the specialists and therapies and eventual acceptance that Lily would never see again. She talked about her husband, Thomas, about his insistence on maintaining normalcy even after Lily's diagnosis, about the rainy night he'd driven home from work, despite her pleading for him to stay at a hotel until the storm passed. The police said he hydroplaned, Rebecca said, her voice barely above a whisper. Lost control on I-40, hit a barrier, died instantly. And I just kept thinking, if he'd listened to me, if he'd been more careful, if he'd just stayed put like I'd asked. You feel like his death was preventable, Janet said gently. I know it was preventable. If he'd made a different choice, he'd still be alive. And that knowledge, that one decision, one moment of not being careful enough can destroy everything. It changed me. I couldn't let anything happen to Lily. I'd already lost so much. So you've spent the last 5 years trying to control every variable in Lily's life to ensure she stays safe. Yes. How's that working out? Rebecca looked up sharply. Excuse me? I'm asking sincerely, Janet said. Has your approach kept Lily safe? Has it made her happy? Has it helped her develop the skills she'll need to eventually live independently? She's 12. She doesn't need to live independently yet. No, but she needs to be learning, building skills, gaining confidence, making mistakes in low-stakes situations so she knows how to handle high-stakes ones later. Rebecca, what's your plan for Lily's future? Do you intend to control her environment for the rest of her life? Of course not. Until she's older. Until she's ready. When will she be ready? At 16? 18? 25? How will she develop readiness if she never gets opportunities to practice? Rebecca felt tears burning in her eyes. I can't lose her. I can't survive losing someone else I love. I understand that fear. But Rebecca, the tragedy is that you're losing her anyway. You're losing her to isolation, to learned helplessness, to a life so small and safe that it's not really living at all. Is that what you want for your daughter? No, Rebecca whispered, but I don't know how to stop being afraid. We don't stop being afraid, Janet said gently. We learn to act despite the fear. We learn to assess risk rationally instead of emotionally. And most importantly, we learn that our children are separate people with their own needs, their own dreams, their own right to take chances and make choices. They talked for another hour. Janet explained the structure of the George Strait event, the safety protocols, the trained staff, the family support available. She showed Rebecca videos from previous events, pointing out the supervision and care taken with each child. I'm not saying nothing could ever go wrong, Janet said. I can't promise that, but I can promise that keeping Lily from this experience won't keep her safe. It'll just keep her imprisoned. When Rebecca left the appointment, she felt emotionally wrung out, but strangely lighter. She sat in her car in the parking lot and called Claire Bennett. This is Claire. Ms. Bennett? It's Rebecca Crawford. I owe you an apology. There was a surprised pause. Mrs. Crawford, I appreciate that, but I've been thinking about what you said, about how I'm so focused on protecting Lily that I'm not seeing how I'm hurting her. You were right. I've been so afraid of losing her the way I lost my husband that I've been strangling her, slowly suffocating all the life and joy out of her. Rebecca, Claire said gently, you've been operating from a place of tremendous pain. I understand that, but I'm glad you're starting to see that there might be another way. I met with the Foundation's counselor today. She helped me understand some things, and Rebecca took a deep breath. I want Lily to go to the event. I'm terrified, and I'll probably have a nervous breakdown the entire time, but I want her to go. She deserves this. That's wonderful, Claire said, genuine warmth in her voice. Lily is going to be so happy. Don't tell her yet, Rebecca said quickly. I want to tell her myself. I need to explain some things to her. Help her understand why I've been the way I've been. Of course, take the time you need. That evening, Rebecca cooked Lily's favorite meal, chicken Alfredo with garlic bread. Lily noticed immediately. "It's Wednesday," she said as she sat down at the table. "Wednesday is taco night." "I thought we could use a change," Rebecca said, her voice unsteady. They ate in silence for a few minutes before Rebecca spoke. "Lily, I need to talk to you about something important." Lily set down her fork, her expression wary. "Okay. I've been a terrible mother to you." "Mama, no. Let me finish, please." Rebecca took a shaky breath. "When your father died, something broke inside me. I became so afraid of losing you too that I tried to control everything in your life. I told myself it was protection, that I was keeping you safe. But what I was really doing was keeping you small and scared and dependent on me." Lily sat very still, tears beginning to slide down her cheeks. "I found out about the application to the George Strait event," Rebecca continued, "and my first reaction was anger. Anger at your teacher for going behind my back. Anger at you for wanting something I was afraid of. But over the past few days, I've been doing a lot of thinking and talking to some people who helped me see things more clearly." "I'm sorry I didn't tell you," Lily whispered. "No, baby. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I made you feel like you couldn't tell me about your dreams, like wanting normal experiences made you bad or ungrateful. I'm sorry I've kept you locked away from the world because of my own fear." Rebecca reached across the table, finding Lily's hand and holding it tightly. "I want you to go to the event," she said. "I want you to meet George Strait and sing and be around other kids and have this incredible experience. It's going to terrify me every single minute you're gone. But that's my problem to deal with, not yours." Lily's face crumpled. "Really? You really mean it?" "I really mean it. And Lily, I'm going to do better. I'm going to work with a counselor to help me manage my anxiety instead of controlling your life. I'm going to start saying yes to things instead of automatically saying no. I can't promise I'll be perfect at it, and I'll probably still be overprotective sometimes, but I'm going to try." Lily stood up and came around the table, reaching for her mother. Rebecca pulled her into a tight embrace, both of them crying now. "I love you so much," Rebecca whispered into Lily's hair. "And you deserve so much more than I've been giving you. I love you too, Mama. And I know you've been scared. I understand why." They held each other for a long time, the dinner growing cold on the table, the television silent in the other room. It felt like something was breaking between them, or maybe breaking open, releasing years of fear and control, and making room for something new. Later that night, Lily lay in bed listening to Amarillo by Morning. But for the first time in years, she wasn't trying to escape into the music. She was present in her own life, filled with an anticipation she'd never allowed herself to feel before. In 3 weeks, she would meet George Strait. She would step onto a historic stage. She would sing in front of people. But more importantly, she would be taking the first step toward becoming the person she was meant to be, not the person her mother's fear had tried to create. In her own bedroom, Rebecca Crawford lay awake, staring at the ceiling and fighting every instinct that screamed at her to take back her permission, to lock Lily away where nothing could hurt her. But she thought about Janet Morrison's words, "You're losing her anyway." Rebecca knew the next few weeks would be the hardest of her life. But she also knew that if she didn't face her fears now, she would wake up one day to find that her daughter had become a stranger. Or worse, had never become anyone at all. She pulled out her phone and sent a text to Janet Morrison. "This is Rebecca Crawford. I'd like to schedule weekly counseling sessions until the event. I need all the help I can get." The response came quickly. "That's wonderful, Rebecca. I'm proud of you. This is the beginning of something better for both of you." Rebecca hoped that was true. She had to believe it was true, because the alternative continuing down the path she'd been on, was no longer bearable. The 3 weeks before the event passed in a strange blur of preparation and anxiety. Rebecca attended 3 more counseling sessions with Janet Morrison, each one chipping away at the fortress of fear she'd built around herself and Lily. The work was exhausting and painful, forcing her to confront truths she'd been avoiding for years. "Your fear isn't irrational," Janet told her during their second session. "You experienced a genuine trauma. Your husband's death was sudden and preventable, and that creates a worldview where danger lurks around every corner. But Rebecca, you can't prevent every bad thing from happening. The only thing you can control is how you respond to your fear." Rebecca started keeping a journal, writing down every anxious thought, and then challenging it with rational responses. When she found herself thinking Lily could get lost at the event, she forced herself to write, "The event has trained staff, clear protocols, and multiple safeguards. The likelihood of Lily getting lost is extremely low. And even if it happened, the staff are equipped to handle it." It didn't make the fear disappear, but it made it more manageable. Meanwhile, Lily was undergoing her own transformation. With Rebecca's tentative blessing, Claire Bennett arranged for Lily to work with a local orientation and mobility specialist named David Chen. David was in his 40s, partially blind himself, and had been teaching navigation skills for 15 years. "Lily, you're already pretty good at navigating familiar environments," David said during their first session. "But I want to teach you skills for unfamiliar places. The Ryman Auditorium is going to be new territory, and I want you to feel confident, not overwhelmed." They practiced in different parts of the school: the gym, the auditorium, the hallways during busy passing periods. David taught Lily techniques for navigating crowds, for asking for assistance without seeming helpless, for using auditory cues to orient herself in new spaces. "Remember, your white cane isn't a sign of weakness," David said. "It's a tool, like glasses are for people who need them to see. Don't be embarrassed to use it." Lily had always been self-conscious about her cane, often keeping it folded up unless absolutely necessary. But with David's encouragement, she began using it more confidently, sweeping it in the wide arcs he taught her, learning to interpret the information it provided about her environment. At home, Rebecca watched these changes with a mixture of pride and terror. She saw her daughter growing more independent, more confident, and it was everything she'd supposedly wanted for Lily. But it also meant letting go, and letting go felt like dying. One evening, about 10 days before the event, Rebecca found Lily in her room, practicing scales. The girl's voice had matured over the past year, losing some of its childish quality and gaining richness and control. "You sound beautiful," Rebecca said from the doorway. Lily stopped mid-note. "Thanks, Mama. Ms. Bennett has been helping me prepare. She thinks I should sing 'I Cross My Heart' if I get the chance to perform with George Strait." "That was your father's favorite song," Rebecca said softly. "I know. That's why I want to sing it." Lily paused. "Is that okay? Does it make you sad?" Rebecca came into the room and sat on the edge of Lily's bed. "Everything makes me sad, sweetheart. I've been sad for 5 years. But Janet, my counselor, she's been helping me understand that avoiding sadness doesn't make it go away. It just makes it grow bigger in the shadows. Do you still miss Daddy?" "Every single day. But I've realized something lately. I've been so focused on the fact that he died that I forgot to remember that he lived. He was joyful and adventurous and brave. He took risks because he thought life was meant to be fully experienced, not carefully managed. And I loved that about him, even when it scared me." "He would want me to go to this event," Lily said quietly. "Yes, he would. He'd probably be mad at me for waiting so long to let you." Rebecca reached for Lily's hand. "I'm trying to be more like him. It's hard, but I'm trying. At school, word of Lily's acceptance to the event had spread, and she found herself the center of attention in a way she'd never experienced. Students she'd never spoken to approached her to say congratulations. Teachers stopped her in the hallway to express excitement. But the most meaningful support came from unexpected places. Henry Foster spent lunch periods with Lily, telling her stories about the Ryman Auditorium, the mother church of country music, as it was known. The Ryman has hosted everyone from Hank Williams to Patsy Cline, Henry said, his eyes distant with memory. I played there twice in my career, and both times I felt like I was standing on holy ground. The acoustics are perfect. Every note rings true. Every voice carries like it's being lifted by something bigger than the building itself. Are you nervous? Bethany Williams asked Lily one day at lunch, having finally worked up the courage to sit at Lily's usual table. Terrified, Lily admitted, but also excited. Is that weird? No, that's normal. I get that way before dance recitals, like I'm going to throw up and fly at the same time. They laughed together, and Lily realized this was what friendship felt like. Easy conversation, shared understanding, someone who didn't treat her like she was fragile. Can I ask you something? Bethany said, and you can totally tell me to mind my own business. Okay. What's it like being blind? Like, do you see black? Or is it something else? Most people avoided asking Lily about her blindness, tiptoeing around it like it was something shameful. Bethany's direct question was refreshing. I don't see black, Lily explained. I don't see anything. It's not darkness, it's just nothing. Like, try to see out of your elbow. You can't, right? It's not black there, it just doesn't exist. That's what it's like for me. That's actually kind of cool, Bethany said. I mean, not cool that you can't see, but cool that you explain it so well. I never thought about the elbow thing. Want to have lunch together tomorrow? Lily asked, surprising herself with her boldness. Yeah, definitely. That night, Lily told her mother about Bethany, about having an actual friend for the first time in years. Rebecca listened, fighting back tears, realizing how much Lily had missed out on because of her restrictions. I'm glad you have a friend, Rebecca said. Maybe she could come over sometime, for dinner, or to listen to music. Lily's face lit up. Really? You'd be okay with that? I'm working on being okay with a lot of things, Rebecca said. It's not easy, but I'm trying. 5 days before the event, the Children's Music Hope Foundation sent a detailed packet with information about the day's schedule. Rebecca read through it multiple times, her anxiety spiking with each reading. 10:20 a.m., arrival and check-in. 10:30 a.m., orientation in the Ryman Chapel. 11:20 a.m., tour of the facility. 12:00 p.m., lunch provided. 1:21 p.m., individual meet and greet with George Strait. 2:00 p.m., group rehearsal on stage. 3:30 p.m., performance, families invited to attend. 5:00 p.m., reception and departure. 7 hours. Rebecca would be separated from Lily for 7 hours. The thought made her physically ill. She called Janet Morrison in a panic. I can't do this. 7 hours is too long. What if something happens? What if Lily needs me and I'm not there? Rebecca, breathe, Janet said calmly. Let's walk through this. What specifically are you afraid will happen? She could fall. She could get overwhelmed and have a panic attack. Could she fall? Yes. Could she get overwhelmed? Possibly. But Rebecca, the staff are trained for these situations. They've handled hundreds of children with various needs. Lily will not be abandoned or unsupervised. And more importantly, you won't be that far away. Family members are allowed to wait in a designated area. You can be at the venue the entire time. I can? Of course. You don't have to be in the room with her. but you can be in the building. Will that help?" It did help, a little. Rebecca agreed to attend the family support session the foundation was offering the morning of the event. A 2-hour workshop for parents struggling with anxiety about their children's participation. 2 days before the event, Claire Bennett held a special after-school session with Lily to finalize her performance preparation. "You've been working so hard," Claire said. "Your voice has grown so much stronger. But I want to talk to you about something important. Stage presence. How can I have stage presence if I can't see the audience? Stage presence isn't about seeing people. It's about connecting with them. When you sing, you're telling a story. You need to believe that story, feel it in your bones, and let that emotion pour out. The audience will feel what you feel." They practiced for an hour, with Claire giving Lily feedback on her posture, her breathing, the way she delivered certain phrases. Henry Foster stopped by near the end of the session. "Lily, can I give you one piece of advice?" he asked. "Please. When you're up on that stage, when you're singing with George Strait, don't think about the thousands of people who've performed there before you. Don't think about the audience or the cameras or how important this moment is. Just think about the music. Think about why you love this song, what it means to you. Everything else will follow." "I'm scared I'll forget the words," Lily admitted. "You won't? Your body knows this song. Trust yourself." The night before the event, Lily couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, her mind racing through 1,000 scenarios, some wonderful, some terrifying. Around midnight, she heard her bedroom door creak open. "Lily, are you awake?" Her mother's voice was soft. "Yeah." Rebecca came into the room and sat on the edge of the bed. "I couldn't sleep either. Are you having second thoughts? About letting me go?" "About 1,000 of them," Rebecca admitted. "But I'm not going to change my mind. I made you a promise, and I'm keeping it. I just wanted to sit with you for a minute." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Rebecca spoke again. "Your father would be so proud of you. Not just because you're talented, but because you're brave. Braver than I've ever been. You're brave too, Mama. Letting me do this when you're so scared, that's the bravest thing I can imagine. I brought you something." Rebecca pressed a small object into Lily's hand. "It was your father's. I've been keeping it in my jewelry box, but I think you should have it now." Lily's fingers explored the object, a small metal guitar pick on a chain. "Daddy always had this with him," Rebecca said. "He said it was his good luck charm. I want you to wear it tomorrow, so a part of him is with you on that stage." Lily clutched the necklace, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you, Mama. Get some sleep, baby. Tomorrow is going to be a big day." After Rebecca left, Lily fastened the necklace around her neck, feeling the weight of the guitar pick resting against her chest. She finally fell asleep around 2 in the morning. Her hand wrapped around the small piece of metal that connected her to a father she'd lost, and a future she was finally brave enough to claim. The morning of the event dawned clear and cold. Typical February weather for Nashville. Rebecca had been awake since 5, having given up on sleep entirely around 4:30. She'd checked and rechecked Lily's bag a dozen times. Water bottle, snacks, emergency contact information, medications, though Lily didn't take any, extra sweater, tissues. Lily emerged from her bedroom at 7, already dressed in the outfit they'd chosen together. Dark jeans, a simple burgundy sweater, and the necklace with her father's guitar pick. Her long brown hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail, and she looked older than her 12 years, poised and ready. "How do I look?" Lily asked. Rebecca's voice caught. "Beautiful. You look absolutely beautiful." They drove to the Ryman in near silence, both too nervous for conversation. Rebecca's hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles were white. She'd taken a Xanax before leaving the apartment, the first time she'd ever used anxiety medication, but she could still feel panic fluttering in her chest, like a trapped bird. The Ryman auditorium loomed before them, its red brick facade and arched windows elegant against the morning sky. Rebecca had driven past this building hundreds of times, but had never been inside. Now, watching volunteers directing families toward the entrance, seeing other children with various disabilities arriving with their parents, the reality of what was about to happen crashed over her. "We're here," she told Lily, her voice barely steady. They checked in at the registration table, where a cheerful volunteer named Michelle greeted them warmly. "You must be Lily Crawford. We've been so excited to meet you. Your application essay made everyone cry happy tears." Lily smiled shyly. "Thank you. Parents, the family support session is in the chapel, just through those doors to the left. Lily, you'll come with me for orientation. We'll take excellent care of her, Mrs. Crawford, I promise." This was the moment Rebecca had been dreading. She felt Lily's hand slip out of hers, felt the physical separation like a wound opening. "Mama." Lily's voice was uncertain. Rebecca knelt down, bringing herself to Lily's level. "I'm right here, baby. I'll be in the building the whole time, just in a different room. You're going to be wonderful. I love you so much." "I love you too." Lily hugged her mother tightly, then straightened her shoulders. "I'm ready." Rebecca watched Michelle guide Lily toward a group of other children, watched her daughter navigate the unfamiliar space with her white cane, watched her become smaller and smaller as she moved away. Every instinct screamed at Rebecca to run after her, to pull her back, to take her home where it was safe. Instead, she turned and walked toward the chapel, each step an act of will. The family support session was led by Janet Morrison and a psychologist named Dr. Marcus Williams, who specialized in childhood development. There were about 15 parents in the room, all of them radiating the same barely controlled anxiety Rebecca felt. "I know what you're all feeling right now," Janet began. "You've just let your children go into a situation you can't control, can't monitor, can't manage. For parents of children with disabilities, this feeling is amplified 100-fold. But I want you to consider something. Your children are feeling something too. They're feeling trusted. They're feeling capable. They're feeling like they matter beyond their limitations." Dr. Williams continued, "Today is as much about you as it is about them. We're asking you to sit with your discomfort, to not rescue them from challenges, to let them have experiences that are theirs alone. This is practice, for them and for you, for the eventual independence they'll need as they grow into adults." Rebecca listened, fighting tears. Around her, other parents were nodding, some crying openly. A father next to her, a man who'd introduced himself as Carl, whose son had cerebral palsy, leaned over and whispered, "This is the hardest thing I've ever done." "Me too," Rebecca whispered back. Meanwhile, in the main auditorium, Lily was experiencing something she'd never felt before: belonging. The orientation session brought together all 20 children selected for the event. Kids with various disabilities ranging from blindness and deafness to cerebral palsy and Down syndrome. But what struck Lily immediately was that none of them were treated as fragile or incapable. Patricia Holbrook, the Foundation's director, addressed them with respect and warmth. "You are all here because you have extraordinary musical talent, and because music means something deep and important to you. Today, you're going to work with one of country music's greatest legends. You're going to perform on a stage that has hosted icons. And you're going to show the world that disability doesn't diminish talent, passion, or the power to move people with your voice." The tour of the Ryman was led by a historian named James O'Connor, whose love for the building was evident in every word. He described the wooden pews, the Confederate gallery, the stained glass windows. For the children who could see, the visual splendor was apparent. For Lily and the 3 other blind children in the group, James made the building come alive through description and by encouraging them to touch. The worn wooden floor where thousands of performers had stood, the cool brick of the original walls, the smooth railings of the gallery stairs. When they stepped onto the stage, Lily felt something electric run through her. The space felt vast and intimate simultaneously. James explained that the Ryman had been built as a church in 1892 and had served that purpose for decades before becoming a music venue. The acoustics were designed to carry a preacher's voice to every corner without amplification, James said, which means every note you sing today will be heard with perfect clarity. This stage doesn't lie. It reveals the truth of your voice. Lily ran her hand along the edge of the stage, feeling the history embedded in the wood. Somewhere in this building, George Strait was preparing to meet them. The thought made her dizzy with anticipation and nerves. At 1:04 p.m., the individual meet and greets began. The children were called one at a time to a private room backstage where George Strait waited. Lily was 7th in line, which meant 35 minutes of waiting and wondering what she would say when her moment came. Lily Crawford, a staff member, touched her shoulder gently. "Mr. Strait is ready for you." Lily stood, her legs shaky. Another staff member guided her down a hallway and through a door. The room smelled like coffee and leather, and Lily could sense another presence. Someone waiting, watching. "Lily, it's wonderful to meet you." The voice was unmistakable, the same voice that had filled her bedroom for years, that had comforted her through dark nights and lonely days. George Strait's voice, but warmer and more present than any recording could capture. "Mr. Strait," Lily managed, her voice barely above a whisper. "Please, call me George. Come on over here and sit down." Someone guided her to a chair, and she felt George Strait settle into the seat beside her. He was real. This was happening. "I read your application essay," George said, "about how my music helped you after your father passed. That meant a lot to me, Lily. That's why I do this, not for the fame or the records, but because music has the power to heal people, to connect people to memories and feelings they thought they'd lost." "Your music saved me," Lily said, the words tumbling out. "When I lost my sight, and then lost my daddy, I felt like I was disappearing. But your songs made me feel like I still existed, like there was still beauty in the world, even if I couldn't see it." "Your daddy had good taste in music," George said warmly, "and it sounds like he raised a brave, beautiful daughter. He'd be proud of you for being here today." They talked for 15 minutes about music, about Lily's vocal training, about her dreams. George asked what song she wanted to sing, and when she said, "I Cross My Heart," his smile was audible in his voice. "That's a special one. Written for my wife, you know. It's about promises that last forever." He paused. "How about during the performance, you and I sing it together? You take the verses, and I'll harmonize with you on the chorus." Lily couldn't speak. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Hey now," George said gently. "Save those tears for the stage. That's where they belong. In the music." Before she left, George did something unexpected. He picked up his guitar and played a few bars of "Amarillo by Morning," singing softly. Lily stood frozen, listening to this private performance, this gift that was hers alone. "Thank you," she whispered when he finished. "Thank you for everything." The group rehearsal was both exhilarating and terrifying. 20 children with varying abilities, all learning staging and timing under the patient guidance of the musical director, Susan Wright. Some kids would perform solos, others in small groups, and the finale would feature all of them singing Amazing Grace together, with George Strait leading. Lily's solo was scheduled as the penultimate performance, right before the group finale. Susan worked with her on positioning, on how to hold the microphone, on where to direct her voice even though she couldn't see the audience. The beauty of being blind, Susan said, is that you're not distracted by faces or reactions. You can focus entirely on the emotion. Use that, Lily. Let the song pour out without second-guessing yourself. At 3 p.m., families were invited into the auditorium for the performance. Rebecca had spent the past 2 hours in the support session and then waiting in a designated family area, checking her phone obsessively even though she knew Lily had no way to contact her. When the doors finally opened, she rushed to find a seat, her heart pounding. The Ryman was even more beautiful inside than she'd imagined. The wooden pews, the warm lighting, the sense of history that seemed to emanate from every surface. She found a seat in the middle section, close enough to see the stage clearly, but not so close that her anxiety would be visible to Lily. Other families filed in, all of them radiating the same nervous pride. Carl, the father she'd met earlier, sat a few rows behind her with his wife. They exchanged encouraging nods. The lights dimmed, and Patricia Holbrook walked onto the stage. Welcome to the Children's Music Hope Foundation's annual benefit performance. Today, you're going to witness something extraordinary. The power of music to transcend limitations, to give voice to dreams, and to remind us all of what truly matters. Please welcome our host for this evening, Mr. George Strait. The applause was thunderous as George walked onto the stage, guitar in hand. He was wearing jeans, a button-down shirt, and his signature cowboy hat. Unpretentious and genuine. "Thank you all for being here," George said, his voice filling the space effortlessly. "I've spent the day with these remarkable kids, and I can tell you something. They're not here because of what they can't do. They're here because of what they can do. And what they can do is move your soul with their voices. So sit back and let them show you what courage sounds like." The performances began. A boy with cerebral palsy sang "God Bless the USA" with such passion that grown men in the audience wept. Twin girls with Down syndrome performed a duet of "I Will Always Love You" that had every parent reaching for tissues. A deaf teenager who'd learned to sign in perfect rhythm performed alongside his interpreter while an accompanist played piano. Each child brought something unique, something authentic. The imperfections, the occasional missed note, the wavering pitch, the moments of uncertainty, made the performances more powerful, not less. These were real children doing real things, and their bravery was palpable. Rebecca watched it all through a blur of tears, overwhelmed by the beauty and courage on display. And then she heard the words she'd been waiting for. "Our next performer is a young lady who's become very special to me today," George said. "Lily Ann Crawford is 12 years old and has been blind since she was 5. She wrote in her application that my music helped her survive losing her father and losing her sight. Lily, that's the greatest compliment a songwriter can receive. Come on out here, sweetheart." Rebecca watched Lily emerge from the wings, guided by a staff member to center stage. Her daughter looked so small in that vast space, so vulnerable. Rebecca's hands clenched the edge of the pew, fighting every instinct to rush the stage and pull her baby to safety. But then Lily straightened her shoulders, lifted her head, and found her position. George Strait walked over to stand beside her, his presence both supportive and respectful, not overshadowing her, but standing with her. "You ready?" George asked softly, his microphone catching the question. "Yes, sir," Lily said, her voice steady. The opening notes of "I Cross My Heart" began, the familiar melody filling the Ryman. Lily let the intro wash over her, and Rebecca could see her daughter doing what Claire Bennett had taught her, feeling the music, letting it settle into her bones. Then Lily began to sing. Her voice started soft, but grew stronger with each word. She sang about promises and forever, about love that endures beyond time and circumstance. And as she sang, something extraordinary happened. Lily stopped being a blind girl on a stage and became simply a singer, a storyteller, a vessel for emotion that needed expression. George harmonized with her on the chorus, his legendary voice blending with Lily's young one, creating something both powerful and tender. He was letting her lead, following her tempo, supporting but not overwhelming. Rebecca watched her daughter and truly saw, who Lily was becoming. Not a victim, not a disability, not something to be protected and hidden, but a person, complete, complex, talented, brave. The tears streaming down Rebecca's face now weren't tears of fear or anxiety. They were tears of pride, of recognition, of grief for all the time she'd wasted trying to keep Lily small, and of hope for the future they could now have. As the final notes faded, the audience erupted. The standing ovation was immediate and sustained, people on their feet applauding not just the performance, but the courage it represented. Lily stood on that stage, unable to see the response, but able to hear it, to feel it vibrating through the wooden boards beneath her feet. George pulled her into a gentle hug, then lifted her hand like a boxing champion. "That's how it's done, folks. That's how it's done." Lily walked off the stage with assistance, her face flushed, her smile radiant. She'd done it. She'd stepped outside her small, safe world and discovered she could fly. The finale featured all 20 children singing "Amazing Grace," their diverse voices blending into something both imperfect and sublime. George led them, his guitar providing the foundation, but the children carried the melody, a testament to resilience, to hope, to the human spirit's refusal to be limited by circumstance. When the performance ended and families were invited to the reception area, Rebecca pushed through the crowd, desperate to reach Lily. She found her daughter surrounded by other parents offering congratulations, by volunteers hugging her, by new friends from the group laughing and sharing their experiences. "Mama!" Lily's voice cut through the noise, and she turned unerringly toward Rebecca, navigating through bodies with her cane until she fell into her mother's arms. They held each other, both crying, both laughing. "You were perfect," Rebecca said. "Baby, you were absolutely perfect. I was so scared." But then the music started, and it was like everything else disappeared, like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. "You were. You are." Rebecca pulled back, cupping Lily's face in her hands. "I'm sorry it took me so long to let you shine." George Strait approached them, and Rebecca found herself face to face with the man whose music had sustained her daughter through impossible times. "Mrs. Crawford, I'm George. Your daughter is extraordinary." "Thank you," Rebecca managed. "Thank you for giving her this opportunity, for believing in her." "Ma'am, Lily didn't need me to believe in her. She needed someone to give her a chance to show what she was already capable of. That's all any of us need. A chance." He turned to Lily. "You keep singing, young lady. The world needs to hear that voice." As the reception wound down and families began departing, Rebecca and Lily walked slowly through the empty auditorium one last time. Patricia Holbrook had given them permission for a private moment on the stage. Lily stood center stage, exactly where she'd performed, and Rebecca stood in the audience, looking up at her daughter. "I can feel it," Lily said softly. "All the people who've stood here before me, all the voices that have filled this space. I'm part of that now, part of something bigger than myself. Yes, you are, Rebecca said. And this is just the beginning, Lily. Not the end, the beginning. They drove home as the sun set over Nashville, painting the sky in colors Lily couldn't see but could sense in the warmth on her face through the car window. They talked about everything: the rehearsal, the performance, the moment when George Strait had harmonized with her and she'd felt like she was floating. "Mama," Lily said as they pulled into their apartment complex, "can Bethany come over for dinner this week? And maybe I could join the school chorus?" "Ms. Bennett said there's a spring concert coming up." A month ago, these requests would have sent Rebecca into a spiral of anxiety, would have prompted a list of reasons why those things weren't safe or practical. But now, having survived the hardest day of her life, the day she'd let go, Rebecca found the answer came easily. Yes. Yes to both of those things. Yes to whatever comes next. That night, after Lily had gone to bed, Rebecca sat in the living room with her laptop, looking at the photos one of the foundation volunteers had emailed her. There was Lily on stage with George Strait, her face radiant. Lily with the other children, all of them wearing matching event t-shirts. Lily accepting a certificate of participation from Patricia Holbrook. Rebecca created a new album on her computer, titling it The Beginning, because that's what today had been. Not an ending or a culmination, but a beginning. The first chapter of a new story where fear didn't write the narrative. She thought about Thomas, about the husband she'd lost, and the grief that had defined her for so long. He would have been proud of Lily today. But more than that, Rebecca realized, he would have been disappointed in what she'd become. The fearful, controlling person who'd tried to stop their daughter from living. "I'm sorry," she whispered to the memory of her husband. "I'm sorry it took me so long, but I'm trying now. I promise, I'm trying." In her bedroom, Lily lay awake, her father's guitar pick clutched in her hand. She replayed every moment of the day. The nervousness, the excitement, the moment she'd heard her voice filling the Ryman auditorium, the sound of hundreds of people applauding. But most of all, she thought about her mother sitting in the audience, letting her do this, letting her be more than just someone to protect. Lily reached for her phone, using the voice command feature to send a text to Bethany. "I did it. I sang with George Strait, and it was amazing. Can't wait to tell you everything at school tomorrow." The response came quickly. "You're a superstar. So proud to be your friend." Friend. Lily had a friend. She had experiences. She had memories that were hers alone. She had stepped onto a historic stage and proven to herself and the world that blindness was just one part of who she was, not the whole story. As she drifted off to sleep, Lily made a promise to herself and to the father she'd lost. She would keep singing. She would keep pushing boundaries. She would keep living fully, even when it was scary, even when it was hard. Because she'd learned something today on that stage at the Ryman. She was capable of more than she'd ever imagined. And that knowledge, once gained, couldn't be taken away. The next morning, Rebecca woke up to find Lily already in the kitchen, making scrambled eggs for both of them, something she'd never been allowed to do before. "Careful with the stove," Rebecca started to say, then stopped herself. "That smells delicious. Thank you for making breakfast." Lily beamed. "I've been practicing in my mind. Ms. Bennett taught me counting methods to know when eggs are done." They ate together, talking about normal things. School, weekend plans, the possibility of Lily attending a music camp that summer. Normal, beautiful, everyday things that felt extraordinary in their ordinariness. As Rebecca drove Lily to school, she thought about the long road ahead. The anxiety wouldn't disappear overnight. There would be setbacks and moments of fear. But yesterday had proven something crucial. She could survive letting Lily live. More than survive, she could find joy in watching her daughter become the person she was meant to be. When they pulled up to the school, Lily gathered her backpack and turned to her mother. "I love you, Mama. Thanks for letting me go yesterday. Thanks for being brave. I love you too, baby. Have a good day at school." Rebecca watched Lily navigate the sidewalk, watched her greet other students, watched her disappear into the building where her full, expanding, beautiful life, waited. Then Rebecca drove to her office at Child Protective Services, thinking about all the cases she handled, all the families she worked with. She wondered how many parents were like she'd been, so focused on protection that they forgot about purpose, so determined to prevent harm that they caused a different kind of damage. That afternoon, she requested a meeting with her supervisor to discuss developing new resources for families of children with disabilities. Resources that addressed not just safety, but also independence, growth, and the balance between protecting children and preparing them for life. Because Rebecca Crawford had learned something on that Sunday in February at the Ryman Auditorium, sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do to a child isn't letting them take risks. It's never letting them try. And she was done being dangerous to her daughter. She was ready to be the mother Lily deserved. Not perfect, not fearless, but present. Present and trying, which was all anyone could really ask. The story of Lily Ann Crawford didn't end on that stage at the Ryman. It began there. And Rebecca Crawford's story, the story of a woman learning to live again after loss, learning to trust again after trauma, it began there too. Both mother and daughter walked forward into an uncertain future. But they walked together, with courage born not from the absence of fear, but from the decision to act despite it. And somewhere in Nashville, George Strait went about his life, never knowing the full impact of one afternoon spent with a blind girl who needed someone to believe she could fly. But that's the thing about kindness, about giving people chances. You don't always get to see the ripples. You just have to trust that throwing the stone matters. It did. It always does.